our feather all finished now, the final touch is to add some color. This is where we give it the realism that makes it look like a real feather. The colors that we're going to use to bring out this feather are the Kova colors. These are acrylic paints for leather. We will have to blend these colors a little bit to get the shades that we want. The colors that I'm using are a dark brown, a black, a yellow, and a white. The white that you see on this feather is actually an ivory, and I've mixed that together by using mostly white, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of brown to produce this ivory sort of color that you see here. The brown on the feather is actually mostly dark brown, but it has a little bit of black in it. The black helps us to give us the kind of tone that an eagle feather has. Both of these, after they were mixed up, have had a little bit of water added to them. Straight out of the bottle, they're a little thicker than I like to use them. So we add just a little bit of water to the mixture. This gives us, it allows the color to not cover up the textures that we put on this feather. If we were to use this straight out of the bottle, it's heavy enough that we would cover up all those fine lines and fine texture that we put in the feather, so that's why we dilute it with water. To start out with, I'm going to use a fairly large brush, and I'm just going to get this color everywhere. I want to make sure, especially down here at this end where we have the little, the wild hairs, we want to make sure that we get it all the way around. We don't want any natural leather showing when we get done with the painting. We want to get it out here on the quill as well. And we will eventually paint the back of this as well, so that if somebody is curious enough to see if it really is a feather and turns it over, it'll be painted on the back similar to the front, not with quite as much detail. But when you're putting the color on the main body of the feather here, you notice the brush strokes. The brush strokes follow the direction of the lines that were put on the feather. That way we actually enhance that texture a little bit. Make sure that the color flows along the texture. We're going to color this out about 2/3 of the way to the end, and then we will switch over to the brown colors. This is going to be a bald eagle feather. That's what we're trying to simulate, and most of the time when people see a bald eagle feather, it's got a brown tip at the end. That actually is a adolescent eagle. When they are born, they are all dark. They're almost black, and then as they mature, they get the white tail and head. And so what we're going to be painting here is what we call an adolescent. Rinse out our brush here real quick. We'll go to the brown. At this point, we're not trying to finesse it too much. We're just getting a base coat in there. One of the reasons I choose to use the block out for the acrylic finish that stiffens the leather is that block out dries with a matte finish, and that matte finish has what we call tooth to it. It actually causes the acrylic paint to stick to it a little bit better than a shiny or glossy finish would. So it works really good for this this process here. Get a little bit on the back here too. After we have gotten a basic coat of the ivory and the dark brown on the feather, we need to transition these two colors together. As this eagle matures, they gradually go from the brown to the white, and we need to make sure that we don't have a real dark line where that transition occurs. I've went to a smaller brush here now. that, and you notice that my brush stroke has also changed. Instead of putting the paint on, going with the angle of the impressions that were in the feather, I'm actually kind of jabbing at it. This is called stippling, and I'm starting with the brush fairly loaded up with paint up here in the brown area, and then as that paint dissipates, as it gets less and less on the brush, then I work out into the white so that you get these lighter shades and you get this sort of a speckling effect, and that's one of the things that you'll see in an eagle feather as they transition. So what you really want to stay away from is a real crisp, bold line where the colors change. And you can even, you need to work with a very little paint on your brush. You notice I just wiped off most of what I have, and you see how that helps to transition these colors. So we're running the brown now down over the top of the ivory so that we can get this transition. And we'll get a little more finer with our work as we go here. Notice I'm trying to keep it a little darker up next to the quill. We're going to make that quill stand out a lot more than what it does now. We have to get the brown back in place here first. And we'll get some out in these other areas. They don't change colors with any sort of pattern to them, so got to have this look and appear random. There'll also sometimes, for whatever reason, there'll be some spots that just don't change at the same time. And those will just show up again randomly like this. There'll be some more distinct spots that just don't look like they're quite the same. So we'll do those with a little more intensity here. We'll work on this transition so that it looks like it's very gradually he's aging. We will also, when I get done, then we'll take some of the ivory again, and we've been stippling the brown over the top of the ivory. Now we're going to take some ivory and we're going to stipple back over the top of the brown a little bit, and that again helps with that transition. It makes it gives a real nice natural look to it. Once we get the color next to the quill darkened up, now we'll come back with some more of that ivory, fairly intense, and we'll sharpen that quill up again. We have our feather painted now on this piece of leather, and we need to make it stand out a bit more. One of the things when you undercut that you get is this line, and I'm sure you can see it, a pretty distinct line where we've cut the leather loose. I need to cover that in and give it a dark contrast behind that, and the product I wish to use is our EcoFlow Gel Antique. This product comes out in a very thick fashion, and when we use it as more like paint here, it'll actually cover up that line very well. And I'm just using a small brush again, and I'm taking the Gel Antique, I'm putting on very, very heavily so that it fills in underneath there. Even though we've got some texture under there from the background tool and the texture tool that we used, you can still see that line, so we're just trying to add some camouflage here. Once you get the antique back underneath there, as you run out of antique on your brush, we're going to do what's called that stippling technique again, or a dry brush technique. We're doing this with very little color left on the brush so that we don't have a distinct line where the color ended. We want to have this gradual fading out, this stippling sort of an effect. And what it does a great job of camouflaging the line where we cut this feather loose from the background. And when we get done with this, going all the way around, it will look like this feather was actually stuck on there. And you'll find people will want to look up underneath there and say, hey, what kind of glue did you use to put that on there? I'm using a medium brown color so that I get a lot of sharp contrast against the colors of the feather. But do not brush this on. You want to get this stippling kind of technique so that you don't have any smearing. As you can see, using the antique gel around this feather has really made it stand out on this piece of leather. But we need to do something with that fluffy that we made on the end of our feather. So we'll come back now with some more of that ivory, and we will bring that out. Well, there you go. That's how you make feathers out of leather. Hope you have a lot of fun giving that a try, and now you just have to go practice.